Our first pose this evening is a standing pose. So you're going to stand up and you're going to separate your feet probably about as wide as your hips, and you're going to come into a forward fold. So we're just dangling. You can let your hands hang down. If it's not comfortable, you're welcome to grab a block and just rest your hands on one block or each hand on a block, and you're just letting the head hang down. It's also quite nice to do this against the wall. So going towards the wall and just dropping your hips onto the wall and then coming into a forward fold also feels quite good. So just set up that you feel fairly comfortable, and we're holding for 3 minutes. So I've just started the timer. Once you find your pose, you can start coming into that rigid breath. So just starting to inhale for a count of 4 and exhale for a count of 6. So we're grounding down through our feet, possibly through sit bones if you're leaning against the wall. And by bowing forward and letting go, we're releasing our ego in this pose. Just keep that very, very rigid breath moving through the body. We're at the halfway mark, relaxing the breath, trying to find a more natural way of breathing. And I'm going to be giving mantras for the second half of the poses. And the mantra for this one is, I am infinite and boundless. I am infinite and boundless. And your final minute dangling in this forward fold has just started. So you're welcome to adjust, maybe getting rid of the blocks underneath your hands, seeing if you can come down a little bit lower. If you've had enough of the forward fold, you can come to a seated pose. Just wait until we come into our next pose. And your time dangling is finished. You can come back onto your mat and just make your way into butterfly. So we're bringing our feet together. You might want to sit on a folded blanket. It helps to get the pelvis come a little bit further forward. You might want to take blocks underneath your knees, or perhaps even a bolster underneath the legs, letting the feet come to the other side of the bolster, and then just start to release forward. It actually might even feel quite good to have a block in front of your feet that's just supporting your head. So play around. We're going to be here quite a while. It's a 5-minute hold. So just take time setting yourself up to be as comfortable as possible. And the timer is on, and we're coming into that rigid breath now where we're inhaling for a count of 6, and we're exhaling for a count of 8, and just releasing, letting go. Inhaling, counting to 6, and exhaling, counting to 8. You've been in the pose for 2 minutes. You've got 3 minutes to go, so you know, still breathing with that rigid breath. And relax your breath now. 2.5 minutes to go. I am connected to my own divinity. I am connected to my own divinity. Your final minute is starting now. Without rushing, slowly come out of that forward folding butterfly. You're going to move all of your props off your mat and come onto your back. Take both of your knees into your chest and open your arms out wide, and you're going to drop your knees over to the right side. So just come into that reclining twist pose. We're here for 3 minutes. Before I start the timer, just make sure that you feel settled and play with the sensation of where your feet are. If you kind of move your heels away from your body, so further out towards the right side, it changes the sensation slightly. And if you bend the knees more, pull the feet closer to the body, it gives you a different sensation. So just see where you want your feet, where you like the sensation, and then come into that rigid breath where you're inhaling for a count of 6 and you're exhaling for a count of 10. We're coming up to our halfway mark now. Just coming back to your natural breath. I'm peaceful, whole, and balanced. I'm peaceful, whole, and balanced. And final minute starting now. Just a reminder, you can deepen your twist in this last minute. Maybe adjusting where your feet are, like you did right at the beginning, maybe finding a little bit more sensation by moving them, either closer or further away. And then just hold there. And your time in the twist on this side is finished for this evening. I'm going to ask you to come back to center. And just take your knees over to the other side. And on this side, play around again with where the feet are going to. And then come back into your rigid breath. So just inhaling, counting to 6, and exhaling for a count of 10. We're coming up to the halfway mark now. Coming back to your natural breath. And your mantra is I am at one with the universe. I am at one with the universe. And final minute has begun. Once again, slowly without rushing, come out of that reclining twist, bring the knees into the chest, and gently just rock backwards and forwards until you find yourself seated, and then come onto all fours. And we're going to come into melting heart next. So you want a lot of space out in front of you. You're keeping your hips above your knees and just dropping your chest and your head down towards the earth. You're welcome to take a bolster or perhaps a block underneath your chest or underneath your head to give you a little bit of support if you want to. But we're not here very long, it's only 3 minutes. And then just come back into your rigid breath. And we're halfway. Natural breathing, long exhales. Just keep releasing in the pose. Now trust the journey of life. I trust the journey of life. And final minute, starting now. And once again, I want you to slowly come out of melting heart. I'm going to come onto our back this time. It's a bit of a back bend, and I'm going to ask you, instead of using a bolster, we normally use a bolster. If you can use your blanket and just roll your blanket up until you've got a roll that's going to go across your mat. So it's almost like a very small bolster. And you're going to lie with your shoulders on top of your blanket. You're taking your arms out wide to the side and just taking the top of the head down onto the mat behind you. Your legs can be about as wide as the mat, knees dropping together, or you can straighten your legs all the way out. So just see what's comfortable. But you want the blanket underneath the shoulders. So don't have it in the lower back or in the waist. Make sure it's all the way underneath your shoulders. And it's a longer hold this evening. We're here for 7 minutes. So just taking the blanket all the way underneath the shoulders, arms opening out nice and wide, legs either bent, knees dropping together, or you can stretch your legs out in front of you. It's really important that you're comfortable, and the reason why the blanket works quite well is you can change its height by rolling it a little bit smaller, or make it a little bit higher if it doesn't feel high enough. Whereas the bolster, you're stuck with that one size. But just take time, adjust your blanket to find the perfect height where you can take the head back behind you. Your head should not be hanging in the air. It should be on the floor behind you. And when you open your arms out wide to the side, it should actually feel like you're opening up your heart. So just a very gentle back bend. And then it will probably feel quite good to close your eyes here and just be as still as possible for the rest of the pose. You've got rigid breath moving in and out of the body. Inhaling, looking for a count of 6, and exhaling for a count of 10. Just keep awareness on the breath. And we're at the halfway mark. Come back to your Natural breath now. I am open to joy. I am open to joy. Your final minutes starting now. I'm going to ask you to gently bend your legs and take them towards your chest and gently just roll off onto your side and then press all the way up to seated. So we're just going to come all the way up to a seated position. Our next pose is child's pose, and we do it fairly often. I'm going to ask you to play around with maybe taking a block between your feet. So when you sit back, you're sitting on the block, and you're going to have that rolled up blanket in front of you. And when you fold forward into child, you're taking your forehead onto your blanket and you're reaching your hands back and holding onto your feet. So you've got a block underneath your sit bones, you've got a blanket rolled up underneath your forehead, and child should feel really, really comfortable. And we're here for 3 minutes. If you prefer doing your normal child without the block, without the blanket, of course, you can come into that option rather. But just see what works well with your body and then find your very rigid breath again. We're at the halfway mark. Natural breath, 1.5 minutes to go. I feel my connection to all beings universally. I feel my connection to all beings universally. Your time in your child's pose is finished. We're going to make our way into Sphinx pose. So you're going to come all the way onto your belly. Um, your rolled blanket is going to come underneath your pelvis. So it's going to come underneath the pelvis, and then you're lying with your legs stretched out behind you, with your elbows underneath your shoulders, and a little bit of a lift in the pelvis. So once again, the rolled up blanket works much better than the bolster. The bolster is a little bit big for this. And once you set up, you can come back into your rigid breath. And we're here for 3 minutes, so it's not a very long hold again. Just focus on the sensation in the lower back. Try and keep everything below your waist soft. So I know the glutes want to fire when it gets uncomfortable and tense up. See if you can keep your body soft. And we're at the halfway mark now. Natural breathing. When we come to the final minute, you've got the option to come into seal pose. So I'll let you know. You know that you're just taking the hands out towards the corners of the mat, lifting elbows up. So your final minute is starting now. If you want to go a little bit deeper into the back bend, come into seal. Otherwise, just stay as you are in your Sphinx pose. And I'm going to ask you to come out of Sphinx, but stay on your belly, removing the blanket from underneath you. So if you're on your blanket roll, remove it and take it towards your face, so somewhere on the floor, quite close to the face. We're going to come in to thread the needle on our bellies. So you're lying on your belly, and I want you to take your right arm and thread it underneath towards the left side of you. So you're coming with quite a lot of weight into the right shoulder, and your left arm is stretching straight in front of you. Your blanket is there if you need to put something underneath your head. So sometimes the head is kind of dangling awkwardly. Just pull that blanket underneath so your neck is supported. And really try and stretch your arms away from each other. So left arm straight out in front of you and right arm stretching underneath the left arm to the left. And we're here for 3 minutes again. So once again, just coming into your very, very rigid breath. Just allowing the body to get heavy into that right shoulder where we're stretching. And as you stretch your left arm away from you, you're going to feel a bit of a stretch probably on the left upper arm into the shoulder as well. If this is too uncomfortable, you're welcome to take normal thread the needle from tabletop or from child's pose. We're at the halfway mark. Natural breath. Final minute. Starting now. I'm going to ask you to unthread your needle, come into cactus arms, and just turn your head to look to the right side. So you're resting on your left cheek as you look to the right. And we're here for 1 minute only, just releasing before we stretch on the other side. So 1 minute natural breathing. Okay, so we're going to thread the needle on the other side now. It's your left arm threading underneath a straight right arm. You're trying to get your left shoulder down. Once again, you can use your blanket underneath your head if you need to. Keep stretching your right fingertips straight in front of you and left fingers reaching as far as they can to the right. And then a rigid breathing again. Natural breath once again. You're halfway, 1.5 minutes to go. And final minute starting now. You're going to unthread your needle, come back to your cactus arms again, this time turning the head to the left. And we're breathing very naturally, just releasing here for another minute. And then you can slowly press all the way up to a seated position. And we're going to set up for our final pose tonight. And it's a version of supported bridge pose, but we're going to make it slightly different. If you like to do your supported bridge the way you always do it, you're welcome to. But you're going to take, this is my suggestion, take your rolled up blanket, have it rolling across your mat. So from one long edge to the other long edge. And then you're going to take your bolster and have it coming over that blanket, so your bolster is making almost a bridge shape itself. And then at the end of the bolster where your head goes, you're going to put your block. And then you're going to sit on the bolster. So you're sitting on your bolster and you're looking for your back bend, your head coming onto the block. So you might need to shuffle until you find the right position. You've got the option of keeping your legs bent like they would be in bridge, or you can stretch them all the way out. So just see what works well for your back, for your chest as you open up. And we're holding here 4 minutes. So just releasing into whatever version of supported bridge your body wants to come into this evening. And breathing with that rigid breath. And halfway, starting now, natural breath. Your final minute, starting now. And you're going to slowly start bending your legs and coming carefully off your props out of that supported bridge and just make your way down into Shavasana. So it feels quite good to take your calves or your knees on top of your bolster, obviously covering yourself up. It's very chilly this evening. Will also help you to stay relaxed. And we're going to end our practice this evening with the 1,000-petaled lotus meditation for Shavasana. So just concentrate on the inhale as it enters the body from the base of the spine, expanding the awareness of your pelvis. And exhale and release any tension that might be held in your hips or your pelvis or your glutes. Inhale from the base of the spine up into the belly. And exhale, release any tension from the belly and the lower back. Inhale from the base of the spine up into the heart. Exhale, releasing tension around your chest, your shoulders, your upper back. Inhale from the base of the spine up to the throat. And exhale, releasing tension from your neck and jaw and even your tongue. Inhale from the base of the spine up into the head behind your eyebrows. Exhale and release any tension from the forehead and your scalp. Inhale from the base of the spine all the way up to the crown of your head. And then exhale all the way down to the base of the spine. And keep breathing like this. Just breathing the entire length of the spine. As you're breathing, I want you to visualize a bright, white, shiny lotus flower slowly opening up just above the crown of your head. Every time you breathe out, a petal unfurls. You're breathing that lotus flower open. As you're breathing, concentrate on this beautiful white lotus flower. Allow your breath to be soft and rhythmic. Inhale as if the lotus draws life from the earth beneath you. Let go of all effort and just be open to creative and subtle energies. Just keep breathing, watching that image of the lotus opening up above your crown chakra. I'm going to ask you to start bringing gentle movement back to the body, fingers and toes, wrists and ankles. And then finally, just taking the knees in towards the chest and dropping them gently over to the right side, allowing your eyes to be open. Take a breath or two here. And take a last deep inhale where you are. And exhale, just come all the way up to a seated position. And we'll come into our final pose of Padmasana. And it's always left foot pulling in, right foot just resting, or perhaps lifting up, followed by the left. And we take our hands together into Anjali Mudra in front of our hearts. We lift and touch our foreheads, reminding us to have clear and loving thoughts. Hands to hearts, reminding us to have clear and loving intentions. Hands to mouths, reminding us to have clear and loving words. Namaste. And thank you for practicing. I hope that you enjoyed your class.